here on out, unless I decide to change it for a specific reason, all of our shots are going to be going from left to right, and the movement in our shots are also going to be going from left to right. So if I'm going to be walking a direction in this frame, I'm going to come from the left side of the frame and I'm going to end it on the right side. It just helps, it really makes things flow. If you start from one side and then end up coming in and out on the other side, it's a bit jarring. So here's quite a cool frame like this. I'm just going to do slow left to right slide. And then let's get one more detailed kind of shot, and then we're going to actually put this on the tripod and start getting shots of myself. We're going to get one more like little B-roll shot here. I'm going to get a close-up of this interesting tree. I'm going to use this little piece of tree as my foreground, and we're just going to do that left to right movement. Start a bit back.
I don't know what B-roll is. What the hell is this?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now we are going to throw this camera on the tripod and start getting some shots of me actually walking down this pathway and eventually crossing that bridge. So there's a couple of things that you're going to need to look out for when you are trying to set up your shots on this tripod when you aren't in them. First thing is that you are going to be shooting in manual exposure. You should be shooting in manual exposure, and that means that you can't necessarily set your exposure for your face or like whatever you're shooting. So a trick that I like to do is just put your hand out in front of the lens, and you can set your exposure on your hand. So I'm just going to hit record on this camera. You put your hand out here and just make sure that your hand is going to be in the same light that you're going to be in when you're further down there. Like if you're in a shadow over here and it's direct sunlight over there, that's maybe not going to work. You're going to have to actually move down there, set your exposure, and then come back here and put your camera down. So if I was to put my hand out here, that's going to look like a pretty good exposure to me. So the light down there is the same as this one, so I'm happy with that. And now I can set up the composition for my shot. And there's also something that's really important, is you got to kind of just use your imagination and try and figure out what it's going to look like when you're actually down there, because when you're setting up your shot, you can't actually see yourself down there. So that's what makes it interesting. That's what makes it a little bit difficult. But we are going to start with a shot from here. Still getting some nice foreground, still focusing on our composition, even though we're just filming this of ourselves. And I think what I'm going to do is, like I mentioned before, start with some really nice wide shots, and then we'll move into medium and close-ups of this little sequence. So we start with a nice wide one here, and have me on the thirds in the corner. My exposure's all good, so I'm going to hit record. My camera's in autofocus, so it should pick up me down there. The only time you might have problems is if you've got a lot of foreground, your camera might pick up that foreground, or if you have a camera that doesn't have that great autofocus. But I'm shooting on a Sony and it has very good autofocus. So I'm recording on that shot. I'm going to walk down here, and then we're going to move the camera about and just get a bunch of different angles of us moving down here. Okay, so let's get one of these. Okay, hopefully that looked cool. You guys will know before me. Something that you're definitely going to need to focus on with this is, because your shots aren't going to be moving, they're not going to be very, very dynamic, and because of that, you are going to have to get a lot of different angles and a huge variety of different angles to all cut them together so that you can do like the correct pacing and stuff when you're putting your edit together. So we're just going to rapid fire a whole bunch of shots down this little thing, and then we're going to cut them together afterwards. That was my nice big establishing one. I'm going to get a kind of medium shot of my feet walking over there. I'm going to get my camera down here, making sure that I'm moving from left to right like we mentioned earlier. It's not too important, but I'm going to shoot all of my shots just slightly wider than I feel is like the best composition. And the reason for that is because afterwards, when we're in Premiere Pro or whatever editing software you're using and we start editing this, you can do a really cool trick by using keyframes and cropping in a little bit. You can actually create a bit of movement in your video afterwards, like a bit of digital movement. So because you need to crop in when you do that, we just make sure we get a little bit of a wider frame. It's a little bit of a cheat, and you are going to lose a little bit of quality in that video because of that crop in, but it's just for YouTube or Instagram. Nobody's really going to know this. I'm just going to walk past this frame, like kind of a shot of my feet. Down to the bridge and set up a shot looking back this direction while I'm here setting up the looking back shot. I just noticed there's really cool leaves, and then the sun's shining through over there. I can maybe get like a bit of a lens flare and use that to cut between shots later on, even if I don't know where I might do it right now. Just gonna leave this tripod on and just quickly get a shot of that.
So what the fuck is
Yeah,
that?
that looks cool. You see how the sun is peeking through there, and we're just gonna do a movement from left to right from down here. All this beautiful foreground, and then the sun's gonna peek over there.
What the fuck is this?
That will hopefully. Now back to the shot we were actually gonna get. Okay, I think I am happy with this shot. I'm gonna hit record. I'm gonna go and start from all the way down there.
I don't know, it's the form.
I think it's a good idea just to look back at some of your shots, just so that you can have a rough idea of what your last shot was, so that you can like figure out your next shot and how they're going to cut together. It's really important to like kind of have the edits in mind when you're setting up these shots, rather than like, even though you have to shoot a lot of angles and a very big variety of clips, don't just shoot like random stuff. A really cool way of getting shots of yourself, you just got to be a little sneaky. What we're going to do is use this tripod, and we're going to use it as like a selfie stick. You can do this in so many different ways. You can stick it out like this and use this as a selfie stick, and if you do it right and you're cropped in enough not to notice your arm coming out here, you shouldn't actually even notice that this is you filming yourself. And if you get a shot of your face or something walking along like this, it can look really cool, and it's a nice way to add movement to the shot even when you're filming yourself. For this particular one, I'm going to flip it upside down like this, and I'm going to get a cool shot of my feet like walking, and get that close up, and that's going to cut together with our shots we were getting before. So let's head back up there and get one more shot.
That's fucking cool.
Okay, and I think that one is going to be perfect. What I want to do is, there's this beautiful bridge right over here, and we've got these really cool symmetrical leading lines both going like that. So we're going to set up our camera right here, and I'm going to walk into frame and walk the whole way down the bridge, and hopefully that looks really cool. So we're going to lower it a little bit, because as you guys know, I like to mix up the angles. It really makes it a lot more interesting. If you got angles from up here at face level, that's what you see all day, and it's a little bit boring. I want a couple of different angles of walking across this bridge, and I know that already. So I'm going to set up my angles and make sure that I walk the whole way across the bridge, even if I'm not going to use the entirety of that shot. And I'm going to do a few different angles and do that whole walk again for each angle. And when I'm editing, I can pick which of the parts I want to use that will work best with each other, rather than just having like the beginning of this angle and then think that I'm going to change it halfway through and only get the second half from a different angle. I'm just going to do the whole thing every time, and then I can pick which one's the best. So record and start just out of frame over here, and I'll focus my jump a little bit as I come into frame, but that's okay. Hopefully that shot worked out. Let's have a look quickly. So some of you guys will notice what we're going to do for the rest of these shots is, because we are going to just take note of the continuity. Right in the middle of the bridge, I kind of turned around and looked up this way and like just took in my surrounding a little bit. So for our other angles, I'm going to try and do the same thing in the same position, and when we cut them together, it's going to flow really nicely. I'm just gonna get it way more zoomed in, and that's gonna just give me a little bit of a shot to cut to of my face when I look back. So let's try it again from here. Okay, so for this next shot, we're going to be doing one of the selfie shots by holding out this tripod and getting a shot looking back at my face. Because what I did was, as I walked across, I turned around and looked back this way. I want to capture a bit of that emotion and show myself reacting to the environment that I'm in. That looks perfect, so now I know that my exposure is going to be right. Okay, if we make sure it is long enough like this, you shouldn't notice your arm. And it should be just of your face, and it should look really nice, like someone else filmed it. So we're going to start from here and do the whole thing, even though I'm only going to use the middle piece. I'm going to do the whole thing so that I know that I have the whole thing, so I can pick the best place to cut it, and it's going to work better. So I'm going to start from here, we're going to go.
Super nice.
We're getting our final shot for this location, which is this bridge. I'm going to get one ending thing down here. This is our shot. Let's try it once quickly.
It's like cannon.
This is going to be our next spot, guys. We're just a little bit further down. It's this little area here. It's really cool. My first shot I'm going to get is from down here using this as foreground, and I'm making sure that I'm sticking left to right again. So I'm going to walk in from here into this little area, stop right here, and walk into it. I want to get a really close-up of the zip unzipping and then me grabbing the camera out of the bag. So really get a nice tight of that camera coming out. Throw on that one. So I'm just going to put it down into it. Okay, so we're going to do like a
It's like
weird grabbing one. Like this. We're going to put this back on the tripod. And now we're going to get some nice medium and close-up shots of me actually holding the camera, loading it, and then putting it up to my face. First thing I'm going to do is get a shot of the camera coming up to my hands like this and loading this little loader. Okay, so we're going to lift it in, load it, and then move it to out of frame. And as I moved it out of frame like that, I'm going to cut to another shot of it coming up and going to my face, and then those are going to cut really nicely. A really nice thing you can do is cut in motion, and it makes the cut way more smooth and people don't notice it as much. So that one moved up. As it moved up, we're going to do our best to line up a nice shot looking into the sun now and get some nice sun glares like kind of behind me. Just going to make sure it's going to focus on me. Okay.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I want to get one more detailed shot of taking the photo, and what I want is kind of a shot looking directly at the other camera and into that one's lens. So I'm going to set the tripod up right here.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So let's try and get that one. I'm just going to stay really close here, and I'm going to put it to my face.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
A lot of these shots have been tight. I'm going to get one more wide shot so I can keep cutting between it, just like our master shot. I am just going to take the photo and put it back in the bag, and then I'm going to get a nice close-up handheld shot of the actual ending, which is going to be a cool shot, which I'm going to show you in a minute. For this one, I'm going to record from here. It's a nice big shot, and I'm going to get in there.
I don't know what he's doing. That's cool.
I'm going to go from here, even though I'm not going to use it from over here.
That's fucking cool. That's fucking cool. Cool. That's fucking cool. I don't know what's going on, but that's cool.